Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for August 14th through 20th. This week I read 2 books, I watched 6 shows, I watched 2 movies, and I listened to 1 book. First this week, and it took me almost the entire week, I read Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. This is a book that I've seen very little buzz about before. I've basically heard like it's dark academia, it's interesting, that type of thing, but I have also seen people tell me that this isn't a book that if you're really looking for plot or you're really looking for characters that you're gonna enjoy, and I believe that because there's very little plot development, there's very little character development. This is one of those books where yes, I was kind of interested to know what was happening and what kind of the backstories were and how we got there, and yet at the same time it literally took me an entire week to get through this because I just kept putting it down because it wasn't keeping my attention that much. This really is a book that is all about the vibes, and the vibes were very interesting. The whole concept was very interesting. If you've never heard about this book before, it's about this place called Catherine House. It is a post-secondary institution where if you are accepted to it, you don't have to pay to go there. You don't have to pay for books or supplies or meals or housing or anything like that, but once you're there, you can't leave for 3 years, and it's very academically rigorous. And then of course, because this is academia, there is something dark going on as well. I think that ultimately this just wasn't really my favorite because I need a good solid plot and good solid characters, and I got some of both of those, which were great, but I need other things to back that up. Just before midnight last night, I also sneaked in a graphic novel that was Across a Field of Starlight. This is something I had seen Beck over at Mooney Reads by Starlight talk about, which is just, perfect for their channel title. So I put a hold on the library, it came in this week, I'm glad I got to it. This one has some absolutely beautiful art, and our 2 main characters are very spread out across this universe. One of them is a soldier that is going against the Empire, and one of them lives in a commune that is trying to stay away from anything to do with the conflicts going around. They meet when they're children and end up figuring out a way that they can stay in touch, and then we see them a few years later into their early adulthood. I think one of them is 15 at this point, and all of a sudden the one in the rebellion is training as a medic but also wants to possibly be a soldier, and there is some potential seen in that character, so they start advancing in the ranks, and some weird technological advancements just drop into their laps. Sections of this were pretty heavy on the science, so there were a few things that I don't think I really understood, but I understood it enough to understand what was going on with the plot. And the most interesting thing about these 2 characters being from completely different backgrounds is how they viewed interactions with other people as either just you help people because you help people, or something that's transactional, and that's just how they were brought up. I also love how basically every main character was either queer or trans or both, and that was just lovely to see. This one does appear a little dense, but again, I knocked it out last night, so it is easy enough to get through if you're just wanting to get through an entire story pretty quickly. On to the 6 shows I watched this week, and yes, 3 of them are Drag Race. Let's start with the first one I watched this week, which was Drag Race Down Under. I watched episodes 2, 3, and 4 of the 2nd season because this one uploads on Saturdays, and I guess I had missed an upload, and then I saw this week's upload, so I watched 2 earlier in the week, and then I watched 1 yesterday. So they've all kind of smushed together for me. The most recent episode was Snatch Game. For me, this was kind of a middle-of-the-road Snatch Game. I didn't think it tanked, I didn't find anything super hilarious, except for the couple of standouts that did very, very well, and one of them ended up actually winning the challenge. That person did a very good job. However, more and more as I watch Drag Race, I'm actually cross-stitching and listening to it, so I'm probably not connecting to it as much as I usually do. I'm just working on this cross-stitch that is going to take forever, so I put as much time into it as I possibly can. There was definitely a queen trying to start some shit this week, and I enjoyed that that was just kind of called out, and some things happened, not as a result of that, but it feels like as a result of that. This week I also watched the first 3 episodes of When Missing Turns to Murder. This is a UK show, and you can tell it was made for TV because there's lots of repeating itself, obviously after commercial breaks, but it's something I am watching on Netflix. This is exactly what it sounds like on the tin. It is true crime where people are presumed missing and then they are presumed murdered, or their bodies are found and it's confirmed that they have been murdered. Especially with the first 2 episodes, although I didn't mind it as much in the 3rd episode, which I only watched yesterday, you could really tell it was made for TV because it repeated itself a lot lot. And because I've been watching a lot of true crime content on YouTube that is much longer but doesn't feel longer because one, I can speed it up, and two, it doesn't repeat itself all the time. It felt at times that I wasn't getting as much out of these 40-minute episodes, but at the same time, it was made for a completely different format than what I've been watching recently, so I understand that. Besides the repetitive nature, which is just the nature of something if you're going to put it on television and have commercial breaks, this was very well put together, and it seemed like it was being very respectful to the families of the people that have been lost. Me and my roommates also continued watching Westworld. We finished the second season and we got a couple of episodes into the third season, which, yes, is very, very different than the other seasons. I think this was the big transition point that I was waiting for because I knew so little going into this, but I knew that once you get to a new season, things really change, and this was the bigger version of the change I think I was waiting for. Hard to talk about when you're not trying to spoil anything for anyone. Obviously, I'm in the third season of the thing. I can't really talk to you about specifics, although a certain well-known actor does show up in this season, and I'm excited to see where his plotline goes, especially based on, I believe, how it's the second episode ends, because ooh, I have some feelings for this character that, because I know things he doesn't know, and it's gonna be interesting, that's all I can say. This week we also watched the entire first season and the first couple of episodes of the second season of The Great North. I had previously seen about 4 or 5 episodes before when this was first coming out, but now that it is on a streaming platform, we decided to sit down and actually just watch through it. I absolutely love this show. Beef Tobin might be my favorite TV dad ever. He's just so patient and kind and just lovely, and the whole family dynamic is just wonderful as well. There's also so many jokes that are just so randomly one-off and funny, and I love the different situations these characters get themselves into and then get themselves out of, and it's just great. If you've never heard of it before, it's about this family that lives in Alaska. The dad is a single dad because the wife left the family. He's got a grown-up son, 2 teenagers, a boy and a girl, and then he's got a 10-year-old child. And then the grown-up son has a fiance who recently moved to Alaska, so they live in the guest house. It's wonderful. It has so many great voice actors, sometimes as recurring characters, and sometimes as random one-offs that you look it up and you're like, oh my god, it's Rhys Darby playing a snowflake during a hallucination. What? Yeah, that happened. This week I also stayed current on Canada's Drag Race, but I'm standing here thinking, what was the challenge this week? Because I've watched so much Drag Race this week that I can't remember. I know that for the mini challenge they did quick drag and they did photos, like one group was like a Christmas photo, another one was like we're on a vacation photo, but I can't think of what the actual main stage challenge was or what the runway was. 3 different English speaking seasons all on at the same time. They're all just gonna get mixed up in my head and I'm not necessarily gonna remember what's going on. Ooh, no, I do remember some of the runway because I remember what the person who was winning won, and this is not my favorite person, but that was a great outfit. So there's that. But immediately off the top of my head, first thing in the morning after waking up, can't remember who went home, can't remember what the challenge was. I do, however, remember most of this week's episode of RuPaul's Secret Celebrity Drag Race. This one is again a lot of fun. I love seeing these queens dance their padded asses off because that's what this challenge was. And I'm still 100% firm in knowing who Chick LaFay is. I'm still pretty certain I know who Bella is. I really hope my best friend is right about who Poppy Love is because that will be amazing. But ultimately I don't think I'd ever heard of the queen that went home this week, so it wasn't like a big, oh my goodness, it was this person, because I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I've ever heard of this person before. Yay! I don't know all the celebrities. You can't know all the celebrities. Moving on to the 2 movies I watched this week, they were both in the same franchise, and one of them is National Treasure, and one of them is National Treasure 2: Book of Secrets. These are fun. They kind of feel like the Robert Langdon books by Dan Brown, Angels and Demons and whatever the other one was called, but made for a family audience. I don't know which ones came first because I had never seen these ones before, but these are from the early 2000s, which was around the same time. So, you know, comparable titles, but in different age ranges. If you've never seen these before, Nicolas Cage is the last in a very long series of treasure hunters because his great-great-grandfather knew where a certain treasure was supposed to be, so he has dedicated his life to trying to figure out where it is. siblings, but his dad doesn't really believe the family secret, and there's some opposition there, and obviously he hasn't found it yet because many generations haven't figured it out. However, he's a historian, he has a bunch of all this random knowledge just in his noodle, and he just kind of makes these interesting leaps whenever he gets these clues. Slight spoiler here, but it's something you learn within the first 20 minutes of the film, but the bad guy in the first one is played by Sean Bean, and the bad guy in the second one is played by Ed Harris. Which, you know, is just fun for us because we've been watching Westworld. These movies are so super duper patriotic, and it's kind of a lot for me, especially because there's probably a subset of people that feel less like they can be patriotic these days. And if you were to sit here and pick apart these movies, there would probably be even less to be patriotic about. But if you just take them for the adventure that they're meant to be, these are kind of fun. There's puzzles, there's riddles, there's action, there's adventure, there's funny quips. I can see why these were popular. I don't know why I'd never seen them before. On to the audiobook I listened to this week. That was the final revival of Opal and Nev. This was meant to be an audiobook. This was fantastic. Firstly, talking about the audiobook, this is a full cast audiobook, and what's interesting is that this book is kind of a book within a book type of situation, and the person writing this book is presenting it as an oral history of music. So it just makes sense that we're hearing these different voices from these different rock and rollers and their producers and their managers and their friends and all those types of things. If you liked Daisy Jones and the Six, you are going to like this. If you didn't like the way that one was written, you're probably not going to like the way that this one was written. However, they are different stories along the same lines. Both of them are historical fiction about people in music coming up through the 60s, 70s, that type of thing. But with this one, you really get to know the journalist and kind of the stakes that she has in this game. She's basically lived her life completely separate from knowing Opal or Nev, which are some rock stars that end up being the subject of the piece that she ends up writing. However, her life is intrinsically connected to theirs because it's well known that Opal was having a relationship with her father, who she never got to meet and was cheating on her mom. So not only is she reporting on the music, she also has some stake in the game because she wants to know more about her personal history. I thought this was absolutely fantastic. I read this as one of the books for my 40 before 40 TBR, so I'm slowly chipping away at that, and I'm so excited to read anything else that's like this. So if you have any other recommendations for full cast audiobooks that are similar to this one, let me know down below. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you happen to be on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that, as always, is down below. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!